Hello once again to all UT timers. To the show where I can make you say anything or do anything, even if I say something really stupid coming out of my mouth right now. Once again, Mel is here with Katherine.
Yeah, hello, it's Katherine.
And we have finished the first half, asterisk, of Code Geass.
That's true.
And that sure is a place to end a season. Let me tell you.
You don't say.
But we will get to that in a bit. First, what have you been up to in the intervening month?
In the intervening month, unfortunately, if we had recorded this one day later, I would have been able to talk about Kamen Rider V3. But we can just save that for next month.
Alright. We'll see.
Because I only have like 3 episodes left. So it would feel kind of weird talking about most of it and then being like, yeah, this is what the last 3 episodes were.
In that case, anything else? Or is that
No, honestly, I've kind of just been chilling out this month. I haven't been doing too much, so...
that's fair. I've mostly been on the bar exam grind again, because that's going to be in like a week.
Good luck.
Second of 2. Hopefully it passes.
You should study some of Lelouch's brain smarts to help you get through the bar exam.
If only. I did finish like Umineko episode 3 though.
Oh wow! I don't know if you'd even finished episode 2 when we last hung out.
I think we did. I think I mentioned Ronove last time, so I think I had.
Okay. I don't know. Maybe it was the month before that.
Yeah, it's been kind of like lining up roughly around 1 a month. So that's been nice.
Right. What did you think of episode 3?
This is the craziest one.
Yeah.
So far. Eva is that bitch.
It's true. Who doesn't love her?
Yeah, it's tricky because sometimes she's so out of pocket to Rosa, but also Rosa's a child beater, so it's, who can say?
Yes, on the other hand, you could argue that Ava being awful to Rosa is part of the reason that Rosa is a child beater. So,
yes, unfortunately, that is true.
Is being awful to a child beater good when you're the reason they became a child beater?
Who can say? It is funny that Kraus stocks her up this episode somehow, where he has self-awareness of like, man, I made everyone awful by being awful.
Yes, I think somehow, despite everything, I think Kraus is one of the less awful people in that game.
Yeah, like he was a terrible older sibling, and then chilled out as an adult, and was like, oh no, what have I done?
Yeah.
The part where like they have the Golden Land meeting at the end, and like Natsuhi and Eva are like bonding over their shared classism, and meanwhile Kraus is like, I just think love is love. Like, I didn't expect this.
Yeah, that's fair.
But yeah, I feel vindicated in thinking Umineko is a magical girl thing with how many witches are showing up.
It's true.
We have lots of Beatrices and other Beatrices. There's like, I didn't know Virgilia existed, but she is here now.
Virgilia is here.
Eva Beatrice is here too, or at least she was. I don't know if she'll show up again. I'm kind of curious what I know it's weird because like from osmosis and just like kind of just reading the vibe of the story, I knew there was at some point going to be a point where Beoto has like a heel turn and becomes kind of like, you know, she and Battler become more aligned. And then
right,
this episode,
but that is not what actually happens in episode 3.
What happens after 3 is it makes you think that's happening, and then it says, "Ha, gotcha, pranked," and even Virgilia's like, "Ha, I was also part of the prank." But then, like, with a little bit I read of episode 4, is she's like, "Ha, oh no, did he actually feel bad about my prank? Oh no." And so I'm like, I don't know where things are gonna go. I don't know what Virgilia's deal is now, even. Because whatever her deal was is complicated. Anj is here. That's cool. She's also a witch, somehow.
Yeah.
Yeah, mysteries deepen because sort of like, well, who is the culprit? I guess there isn't one culprit because of the different time loops, but, you know. Everything is tricky to figure out. I don't know. I'm not even trying to attempt to imagine what the mundane solution to any of this is, because I'm like, well, whatever.
Yeah, I will say the game does kind of expect you to, like, actively engage and at least make an effort, so I would encourage that.
Okay, because there's a degree to which I'm like Battler seeing, like, the Four Towers battle and being like, what the hell is that?
Yes, well, yeah, as they told you, the Four Towers battle can just be an over-dramatization of someone gets shot with a gun.
That is true. I should probably, I guess, think about it a bit more. I should, you know, there's a degree I'm like, kind of like, oh, I'm just here for the ride, even though I'm, like, in a book club with other people.
Right.
Maybe some of it's, like, because I'm in a book club with other people who are doing the work of doing that, I'm not thinking about it as nearly as much. But also, you know, there's other complications, like, oh yeah, Eva was technically the culprit this round, but also her motives don't make sense when 2 of the people who died are, like, her family, which are, like, her entire motivation for doing anything. And so,
right.
What's
interesting.
Like, you know, it's one thing if just Hideyoshi died, but the fact that George died is like a question mark. What happened here? Because I technically did start episode 4, I did get hit in the face with tanned and ear-pierced Okanoki showing up with a suit.
Yeah.
And he's just he's not a war criminal this time. He's just a chill businessman giving, like, a nice slice of life to Anj. What does he mean by this? Is it just 2 guys with the same name? I like the idea that he got, like, so beat up by Akasaka in Higurashi that he just decided to just, like, I'm done with this war crime stuff. I'm just gonna get chill and go into, like...
Yes, to be fair, if you were the war crime squad and you got your ass beat by, like, the 8-year-olds in the village...
He's like, yeah, okay, you know what, I'm gonna hanging up my badges, you know. Let's go into the business world now. Yeah. I feel like I remember, like, there's the guy who, like, the security guard guy who's, like, helps rescue Anj from that stair sequence. This is episode 4 we're talking about now, audience, by the way.
Yeah.
Is he I think I heard that even though he is not technically in Higurashi, he is implied in later voiced versions that he's also in Higurashi.
Yeah, just as, like, one of the mooks.
Yeah, like, it feels like one of those things where it's like retroactively we attached his voice to this guy to like draw more continuity than there otherwise necessarily would have. For the lore heads, I guess. Which I guess makes sense that's there when it's like, wow, who is this witch who looks suspiciously like and sounds suspiciously like the protagonist of the last game?
Oh, great question.
But yeah, otherwise I was blindsided by the Lambda Delta reveal that she's actually like, oh, you owe me, bitch, actually.
Yup.
And Delta tries to stop herself from peeing and pooping, which she does a lot in episode 3, to be honest. And some of it was an act, but some of it seems very real.
Yup.
She is more she's more puppy girl coded than I expected. But yeah, Umineko watch continues. By watch I mean read. I need to go read the entirety of Koharu Root and White Album 2 later, because I haven't done that.
You should do that.
I have not read past Christmas, so...
right.
It's just been busy. And I prioritized finishing episode 3 of Umineko. So...
That makes sense.
Just because, like, well, I don't know. The crazy shit that happens in Umineko is just crazy in a different way than the crazy shit that happens in White Album 2.
Yes.
Just because, like, one is obviously more mundane than the other.
Totally.
Mundane in a soap opera way, but,
Yeah.
It's like, you could see real people doing this in terrible ways. Exploding everything in front of them. But yeah, I guess we can just go to the Red Roundup. It took me a bit. I remembered. So we watched 4 more episodes. I think because we pushed back the recording from Saturday, technically a 5th has aired since, but I didn't watch it, so...
Yeah, I haven't done it either.
That's good. The 4 is fine. And it was mostly about introducing the purple guy into the cast.
Yes.
And he's fun. He's like Raya, I think. I forget his like actual name.
Yes, I also do not remember it.
It says a lot that I have to look up these characters' names.
Yeah, it's only been like 2 or 3 days since I watched the episode.
Kunai. I guess that is a name you can give a ninja. Yeah, and so they like go to he's like somehow he's the third Gavan who can trust cross dimensions. And they go back to his dimension and save his sister from being held hostage from like the mafia lady that holds her hostage, and that's the episode. And also his sister attacks Reiji with the needle because she's a scientist type.
Yep.
And then we get 2 episodes of like Raya introduces himself to the other 2 Gavins for an episode.
Yep.
Honestly, one of the better sets in the episodes.
I agree, but that's really grading on a curve, because I don't think I like Satsuna that much.
Yeah, we have progressed a little bit in that he's like, well, theoretically I have emotions. What does it mean for me to experience tears? And so he goes to like a community center to have a tear class, a crying class.
Yes, and it turns out the monster is like extracting other people's emotions because he and his wife are like aliens from another planet and they need tears to live.
Yeah, because there isn't clean water on Earth. Also, Raya shows up, and because his comedic bit is he walks through walls, is like because he's a ninja, he has like a weird wall fetish.
Yeah, I wasn't really sure what was going on with that.
This just feels like This feels like when you parody things too much after like 5 seasons, and you're doing like comedic direct-to-DVD shorts. Like this, I don't know. It's very strange. It reminded me of like the Build like t-shirt gags. If you remember those.
Yes.
I forgot his name, but when he's like, yeah, I'm a good guy now, which means I need my comedic bit, which is like having fucking t-shirts for some reason. Also, just looking at the Gavan wiki, the wiki page for Gavan Infinity, they sure did like introduce the Ant Gavan in episode 4 and make us think there might be like more Gavans than like the ones that just keep going back to.
Yeah, but I guess not.
Nope. That's a shame. Space Sheriff Gavan and Maize. Personal information. Gender, male. Race, ant. Occupation, detective.
Race, ant. Occupation, detective.
Wiki is so funny.
I know.
And then the Kiki episode is like she gets possessed by like a ghost alien. Because she met, like last time she was on Earth, she met this hot guy, and she wants to see him again.
Yep.
And it turns out that 1 year for her is like 100 years for Earth. So the reveal is like, oh no, his great grandson took over the cafe that he worked at. So, yeah, it was nice enough. I don't really have much to say about it. I don't think. Do you have anything else to say about it?
No, not particularly. It was an alright episode.
And then I think the last episode is like Gavan, Death Gavan shows up.
Yep.
And the plot's starting again, and they like go from Setsuna's dimension to Kiki's dimension or something, and then Death Gavan gives away, and something. There's a big fight. Also, the annoying robot guy, voiced by Kayasu, is like, I'm going to be Gavan now. I don't like those guys anymore. They're just annoying.
No, that's fair.
I don't care. So I'm going to say, I am glad that the next show is starting in July.
Is it not like a year-long run?
No, it's starting in July. We're already leaving Gavan Infinity.
Okay.
So we're probably near the end of the show, I think.
Right. Wow. It really doesn't feel like it.
I don't know. Because I knew the show was ending in July, I was also like, are we preparing for the final arc, or are we going to spin our wheels for a few more months? The next show is called Kakase Hunter Omega Horn, which sounds a lot more unique and less, like, weighed down by,
right.
wearing the skin of something else. Which, isn't really Gavan Infinity's problem, but, it doesn't help, I don't think.
No, it definitely doesn't help.
Like, it feels like trying to fit Space Sheriff Gavan into a weird Sentai-shaped hole without, like, doing anything actually interesting, to be honest. Wow, I don't think we have much more to say on Gavan Infinity.
No, not particularly. I think it's gotten a little better than the early episodes, but not by that much.
Yeah, it's not like I'm invested. I don't even know if I can enjoy the degrees which is better the way I'm kind of just checked out. Like, I basically watched all these episodes in one block, one sitting, at times 2 speed. I did it on Saturday morning because I was like, I forgot to do this until 12 hours before we're supposed to record. And then we didn't record that day. But regardless, it is showing my how much I care about the show. Which is not much.
Yeah.
I definitely like, damn, he killed Sentai for this? What are we doing here?
For real.
Hopefully the next season is better, and I don't regret making the segment.
Yes, if the next season isn't better, we can just drop the segment.
Yeah, like, I'm always gonna think, like, well, what if the next one? But also, who knows with modern Toei?
Yeah.
Alright, in that case, we shall have a musical break and move on to the main event.
Yeah.
I don't have Word on this computer, so I'm going to open Google Docs.
Oh, you should probably put Word on your computer.
I should probably get something that isn't Microsoft, to be honest.
Yeah, I use LibreOffice.
Okay. Like, I remember, like, I got an undergrad, I got, like, a undergrad, I got
You got one
Microsoft
of those,
Office.
like...
Student packages,
yeah.
Microsoft Office.
I also had one of those, but mine has run out, so...
I don't know if mine's run out. Maybe it has. I mean, it's been like over 10 years and like 4 computers, so who knows.
Right.
Alright, cool. Code Geass, Season 1. The last 8 episodes.
Yeah. Which one of us wants to do the first summary?
Give me a second.
Sure.
I'm gonna flip a coin again. Pick one.
Tails.
It's heads. So I will begin. These summaries were shorter and took me less time because I limited myself to like 5 to 10 sentences instead of trying to cover every exhaustive detail of the episode.
Yeah.
Okay. Episode 18. Suzaku is publicly knighted, so Diethard proposes assassinating him to prevent him becoming a symbol for collaborators. Lelouch obviously does not like this and has to stop Callan from stabbing Suzaku during a party at school held in his honor. Lloyd, who met Nina after climbing through a window, then dressed Suzaku away to do a job on a remote island. Yuffie is coming too. The Black Knights follow because now they have their own submarine, and Lelouch as Zero confronts Diethard about his role in Callan's assassination attempt while they're en route. We'll talk about that discussion for sure. On the island, the Knights conduct an operation to capture Suzaku, which is almost successful due to Rakshada's technology being able to track the Lancelot. While Suzaku and Zero debate ideals, Suzaku is given the order to sacrifice himself so the Britannians can blow him up as Zero and the rest of the Black Knights. Suddenly, Prince Schneisel appears with his airship, the Avalon, and blasts the fuck out of everyone, prompting Lelouch to use his Geass and Suzaku at the last second.
Yeah. This episode, I feel like you captured in the summary pretty well. Like, I can't really think of anything that happens in this episode that you didn't fit in.
Yeah, I mean, there's like the specifics of like Diethard's conversation. Of course, like there's also like the conversation at the start where like Zero like reorganizes the Black Knights to everyone, and there's sort of like a discussion about that.
Yeah, I don't... Yeah, this is a bit of a tough episode to talk about, because I feel like not that much actually happens.
Yeah. Yeah, I mean, there's like... People are racist about Suzaku being a knight. Zero announces the Zero squad, and Callan's like, oh, I get to be part of Zero's Royal Knights. And there's a bit where, like... Cornelia is kind of like being passive-aggressive about Yuffie's choices, and she's like, well, if you want to change the racism laws, you gotta become Empress. I'm sorry. I think like the main interesting bit is like the conversation where Zero confronts Diethard about basically going behind his back to convince Callan to assassinate Suzaku.
Yeah.
And this is where like Diethard reveals that he's the Joker to Zero.
Yeah.
It's really good. Basically, he's like, you know... One, he's like, well, listen, I'm a propaganda guy. If something is a bad optics, you just gotta use the media to get better optics. And then second, he's just like, listen, I saw you when you did the hostage thing in episode 4 or whatever, and it was the greatest thing I've ever seen. And so I want to be part of making history. And, you know, Zero's like, well, how can you be like a reporter on the Black Knights? Like, how can you be like an objective historian on the Black Knights if you're like part of the Black Knights and like actively participating in the things they're doing? And Diethard's like, stupid. There is no such thing as being an objective reporter.
No, he's kind of right about this.
He's cooking, to be honest. Like, I feel like, you know, there's... Like, and I think we talked about, like, oh yeah, this show's probably going to fall into, like, some liberalism, but it does feel like at least, like, a smart anti-liberalism of, like, well, there's no such thing as, like, the objective truth or, like, a truly neutral press.
Right.
And Diethard's like, well, just because I'm part of the press doesn't mean I can't, like, be involved in both be involved in and document the political or initiatives I'm interested in.
Yeah, totally.
There's the funny bit at the start where like Zero like announces like Diethart's in charge of like intelligence and public relations, etc. And like one of like Toto's four knights is like, I have a question. Should we get I'm not to be racist, but should we let a white guy in this position? Is that really okay?
Yeah.
To which Zero is like, well, I'm white. I'm also white, so what are you gonna do about it? And I guess it's also an interesting thing to think about, because I think we might something that might relate to stuff later that might look back around to, but just like Zero's perspective is like guys who get results, guys who are good for the job are like definitely like he's going for the meritocratic, like if you're good for the position you should get the position, even though like in an actual revolutionary situation you also have to think about like someone's class, or in this case like for a colonizer, like a racial background, like are they a settler, how that might compromise their interests. Like in like for instance like the Algerian independence movement, there probably are like some French members of the FLN, but that doesn't mean like there were French guys in the upper echelons of leadership or like in charge of like the entire like intelligence gathering apparatus, for instance, because that'd be like dangerous, because their interests, even if they like are, oh yeah, I'm here because I believe the cause is just, their interests are technically aligned with the colonizer. And like, yeah, you want those class or colonial traitors, the people who are like, oh yeah, I'm going to do like class suicide, and even though I'm like, I'm bourgeois, but I believe that working, destroying capitalism is the right thing to do. Even if you believe that, you're still like necessarily going to be like, you should still be viewed with suspicion and not be like given the keys to like everything.
Right.
Yeah, just so you know, just like a from the perspective of like taking seriously the revolutionary politics attempting being portrayed. Yeah. Just so you know.
Yeah, so also, like, because we're in, like, anime character compression, you don't really see any other guys working for the Black Knights who have, like, PR and media skills.
Yeah. Like, that's also the thing. Like, they can't realistically show all of the people in an organization because...
narrative economy.
You were writing a TV show for network television, and you have like a timeline and schedule, and you just realistics of like how many people you can write for a story that people can actually remember. So
yeah.
But it's like an interesting thing to like look at, just because like it's interesting to look at like, in the context of like what actual like decolonial struggles would be like.
Totally.
And then, I guess at the end of the episode, it's like, one, Yuffie gets in the robot, which is kind of neat. But two, Suzaku's like, I'm gonna grab you, Zero, and then we're gonna blow up together. And then the fucking ship comes and blows over an episode. So I guess we can just go in episode 19. Like, there's probably more to talk about there.
Okay. Somehow, in the aftermath of the previous episode, Suzaku, Colin, Lelouch, and Yuffie end up on a completely different deserted island. Suzaku meets up with Colin, who tries and fails to stab him again, and outs herself as a Black Knight in the process. Meanwhile, Yuffie meets Lelouch and discovers he's Zero. The two pairs spend the next day together trying to survive, with Yuffie and Lelouch reconnecting as siblings, while Suzaku and Colin debate over their preferred methods of Japanese liberation. Back on the Black Knight submarine, Toto and Diethart debate whether they should rescue Zero while the Britannians are still patrolling, with Ogi ultimately deciding to wait another day as compromise. As for the Britannians, Schneisel and Lloyd land on the deserted island at night and examine a weird mural in a cave referred to as a thought elevator, and it is suggested that other magic MacGuffins like these are what fuels Britannian imperialism, as opposed to all the things that normally motivate imperial expansion. The spotlight of the Britannian ships draws the attention of the two pairs, who head over the next day and bump into each other in the process. Lelouch, now once again as Zero, attempts to have Yuffie play along with a hostage exchange, but this goes awry as things escalate anyway, and the ground beneath them collapses and drops them into the thought elevator room. In the chaos, Zero and Cullen steal the prototype Nightmare Frame Gawain that's hooked up to the elevator, which Nigel more or less allows to happen. Suzaku is then arrested under the mutiny charges since Lelouch's Geass ordered him to live, thus allowing them all to escape Babylon's big laser blast. Oh, and there's an invasion of Kyushu by self-proclaimed Japanese forces too.
Yeah.
Have you seen the Gundam 08th and 08th MS Team episode and the Gundam Seed episode, War for Two?
Yeah. I also thought about War for Two when I saw this. I am also familiar with the old meme of Suzaku with a fish going, a fish is fine too. First of all, this episode sure is interested in showing Kallen and Yuffie undressed for some reason.
Yes.
Second of all, I thought that the blonde guy in the first OP was definitely Clovis, and him being prominent was a bait and switch. But turns out it's actually just Schneisel who looks identical to Clovis.
Yes.
Schneisel, which is a ridiculous name.
It's a really funny name.
I like how he flirts with Cecile. And he kind of just gives the Avalon to Lloyd, which is funny.
It's great.
Not making his way in the summary, but there's Bartley, who's the guy who worked for Clovis in the episodes early on were
1 and 2.
Yeah, when he was alive, and then Jeremiah basically had him arrested and kicked him out. Which we'll loop around back to that later. But he was sort of involved with the weird science stuff involving C2. So worth mentioning that he's back because he'll be around a little bit, even if he's not necessarily in the summaries.
Yes. I like this episode more than I like the 2 Gundam versions of this episode.
That's not hard, especially because the show's better than both those shows.
Yeah. Yes, I also think just having 2 pairs on the island makes it more fun, and the characters have more interesting things to talk about.
Yeah. Also helps with the contrast, one, I feel like Callan is sometimes done dirty the way that she's just fawning over all these boys a bit.
Oh, a little bit, yeah.
Her loyalty to Zero does feel like it's being filtered through romantic infatuation a little bit. And then she's getting all blushy with Suzaku, even though she's also pushing back on his ideals, though to her credit also her ideals are also overriding whatever blushiness she's feeling.
Yeah.
She's not being born over to his side in their ideological debates just because she's oh no, keep away. But it's just it does feel like she's being let down a bit by the script by having that aspect of her character.
Yes, they're trying to do a bit of a Clark Kent and Superman thing with her feelings for Zero and disinterest in Lelouch, and I just don't think it really lands for me. That specific parts of it.
Yeah, and also it's Lelouch is very specifically just trying to make it so he's not likable as Zero. He's literally acting unlikable as Lelouch to her, so she doesn't think he's Zero, basically.
Yeah.
Even though their voices are the same, which no one has not noticed. Yeah, the Yuffie Lelouch stuff is interesting. Because, Yuffie's technically, high on the rankings. In the hierarchy of Britannia, who is Lelouch's enemies. She's high. But one, she claims, I'm not going to tell anyone because they won't take me seriously. And two, she's, to some degree, individualism, great man of history. She personally likes Lelouch, and he likes her, so it's chill. And they just kind of oh man, remember when we used to be siblings? And it was good.
Yeah.
And this is planting the seeds of Yuffie's fatal flaw, where she's oh, I know, I'm gonna fix things to make things the way they were, because you can always go back home. And she doesn't realize that you can't really you can't put the genie back in the bottle necessarily.
Yes.
There's also like interesting things where despite the ways that they're kind of like enemies to Zero, or at least like Yuffie less so now, but like Cornelia and Yuffie both have like a lot of love and affection for Marianne and Lelouch and Nunnally that Lelouch is ignorant of, or doesn't, because of his ignorance somewhat, or because it's like either way they're still an obstacle to his goals. He doesn't like consider them, which is interesting. I think like the two media spits for me, like there's first, like obviously Cal and Suzaku still have their debate over like reformism versus armed rebellion, armed revolution.
Yeah.
And but one I like Suzaku once again doing the thing that the guy shouldn't do, was like, oh, it's better when you smile. But he's like, is more that like, oh, you're being your true self, which is like a lot feistier than like the more pretending to be like too quiet at school. He likes that she's more expressive as her true self.
Yes.
Like,
it's a very minor thing, but there's also bits where like Lelouch is out like hunting and fishing, and you get like Yuffie in the Zero Cloak, and I just think that's a like really funny image.
Yeah. Yeah, it is funny because he's like, Yuffie's dress is wet, so Lelouch gives her the Zero Cloak. Yeah, but yeah, Suzaku's like, no, you gotta quit the Black Knights because they're terrorists, and you gotta revolt the right way. You gotta change things the right way, and it's egotistical to like spend lives. And I think Callan makes the good point of like, one, what is the right way, and who decides what is the right way? Like, what makes you the person who decides this is the right way versus the wrong way? And two, like, is the current status quo peaceful, and what the people who die this way, like, are they, what about their deaths? I think that's like a good thing that she throws in his face.
Definitely.
Insert the Mark Twain quote about like the two reigns of terror, like the one that lasts a few years and the one that lasts about 100 years. I'm sure heard the one.
Yeah. I feel like most people who would be listening to this have.
Yeah, and then that's basically what Callan is saying, which is the correct opinion. And then I also like the conversation on the submarine, where Toto and Diethard have a disagreement about like. Toto's like, listen, I don't think it's safe to do like a search for Zero right now when the enemy's there, and as an organization, we should like retreat and reorganize, and hopefully we can come back. And Zero's, but also we got to have a plan for another day. And Diethard's opinion is like, no, Zero is literally the reason we're all here. He's the glue that binds us together, despite the fact we all. Because of various reasons, the Black Knights are a big tent organization, basically. And he's just like, is Zero's charisma that is the glue that binds us together. And then C2 caused problems by just being like, Zero's alive, by the way. I'm not going to tell you how I know this, because I'm not going to say I'm psychic, but I just know it.
Yeah, and then fucking Ogi gets like real misogynistic with C2.
Did he? Or was that Tamaki?
Sorry, Tamaki.
Tamaki
yes. I swapped their names in my head for a second.
Yeah.
Tamaki's like, oh, you're just fucking little Zero's woman. Fuck off, you, like. If it was like in like modern Twitter parlance, he would like call her a foid or some shit. It's awful.
Tamaki sucks.
Yeah.
I do like there's a quote in like episode 21, but I do like the where he's like, "My dream is becoming a bureaucrat," which is the funniest thing I've seen in the show. It wasn't intended to be funny, but it's just like such a funny thing that caught me off guard when he said it.
No, yeah, it does make some sense in context where it's like, if you're part of, like, an oppressed, like, colonialized minority, you kind of just want, like, a comfy, like, office job, you know?
Yeah, I think that there's definitely, like, in decolonial contexts, a lot of, like, the educated upper class who are, like, of the educated upper class of the colonized group did want, like, decolonization so they could, like, advance their own status and not necessarily uplift all of the people. But yeah, I like Toto's argument against Diethard is sort of like, because Diethard is Britannian, he's too invested in, like, the cult of the individual and Great Man of History, because Britannia is all about, like, the, you know, the royalty and, like, the elite leadership and, like, you know, the person who is born with these skills is innately destined to lead. And so, like, even though Diethard is, like, being anti-Britannian, his own, like, cultural upbringing is living through a bias of, like, oh yeah, Zero is the leader who we are all devoted and loyal to, and so therefore that comes before all other aspects of the organization. Which, of course, is not a good way to run things, even if, like, you know, because it's like, even if the argument of, like, oh yeah, Zero is a capable and good leader who, partly due to, like, protagonists' anime magic powers reasons of being able to literally Deus Ex Machina people to do things they wouldn't normally do, more on that in a little bit, he's, like, you know, his unique leadership skills is able to, like, bring together a large group together as a real force. But yes, also, like, an organization that is actually going to succeed needs to be able to survive succession and outlive its leader, its initial leadership, or, like, have multiple leaders, basically. And so Diethard basically overlooks the fact that, like, the possibility, what if Zero died? How would the Black Knight survive? Is it good for them to dissolve just because Zero wasn't there? The answer is obviously no, but that seems to be, like, either the conclusion of what Diethard is arguing, and also, like, what probably would happen without some sort of, like, someone like Toto advancing a position. Because, like, I think part of it is, like, just maybe a thing I loop around to later, is, like, because of Lelouch's own priorities and his own sense of himself, he's also, it's the Black Knights are technically his personal organization that, like, they are a Japanese liberation group, but, like, he made this group to advance his own goals, and the liberation aspect is secondary to his own goals, technically. So they're, like, he is trying to make it so that he is irreplaceable in the Black Knights, in a sense, I think. Which is not good for the organization's longevity. More on that later. Preview for the end of the season. And yeah, I think there's, like, interesting things to consider there, especially because, like, he, in the previous episode, he organizes the Zero Guard as, like, or the Zero Forces, like, oh yeah, this is, like, the rail guard for Zero. And, like, you know, the Black Knights don't know he's royalty, but we, the audience, do. And that's, you know, this is an interesting thing being set up there, I think. That may loop around back to when we have more context later in episodes. But do you have anything to say about this episode?
No, I think we covered everything.
Yeah, I think the only thing is, like, when they introduce the thought elevator stuff, I am a bit like, no, here's where, like, the magic stuff overtakes the geopolitical plot slowly.
We'll talk about that next season.
Yeah, I see that as a season 2 thing primarily. We shall see how it does, but I am like, well.
You're a bit worried.
I am worried.
Yeah, that's fair.
Yeah, but we shall see. The episode ends with Suzaku's got Geassed, and that allowed everyone to survive, but that technically needs to be neat. So there's stuff there. Also, I think we get teased that Lelouch really dislikes Shinizel, but maybe that's just him disliking all of his relatives.
Yeah, I think that's more meant to just be sort of general his hatred for the Britannian royal family over Schneisel specifically.
Okay. I was told the food was ready. That's not awkward. Maybe we can take a break, just because my family would be annoying about it otherwise.
Could you, no worries, this isn't feasible. Do you just want to, eat while we talk? Is that, doable?
I have to go get food.
Right.
I also don't know how annoying it would be, because I have to read the summary and then have a discussion.
Well, I can read the summaries, if that's the problem. I can take care of that.
Maybe just take a break, I think.
Okay.
I think I would just to make a clean break for the next episode, I will just say Lelouch gets his own robot now, which is interesting, because previously we had Callan was the ace pilot, so she got the cool robot, but now Lelouch has his anti-Lancelot, which
yeah, well, we'll see what they do with that.
Not sure what to think about it, but I guess maybe I'll unpack it as we get further along. But yeah, for now, I guess we pause the recording? Maybe we should pause the recording.
I feel like when I pause and unpause recordings, they get all fucked up, so should I just make 2 recordings?
Maybe, yeah. Maybe just save that way. Episode 20.
Sure.
Hmm?
Oh, am I not doing 20?
No, I'm doing it.
Oh,
you did
right,
19.
yeah, right, okay.
The Japanese forces are led by Cabinet Secretary Atsushi Sawasaki and are being aided by China on humanitarian grounds, and Cornelia appears to be unsuccessful in crushing them due to some sort of divine wind. Not said in the episode, but I know historical parallels. Meanwhile, Suzaku resigns as Yuffie's knight due to his insubordination and sense of self-worth, and Yuffie deals with her own feelings of uselessness and lack of self-worth. Despite the war, Millie insists on continuing to prepare for the school festival, which somehow leads to Nina hanging out with Yuffie due to some shenanigans involving getting arrested at the art gallery. And then somehow Nina, in the conversation, but through misunderstandings, gives Yuffie inspiration. Suzaku is sent out to take out Sawasaki, but the Lancelot gets nearly incapacitated. Yuffie Zoom calls him in and give him a pep talk / basically a love confession. And then Suzaku's just cool, I'm gonna go sacrifice myself now. Lucky for him, Lelouch decided that the Chinese-backed liberation would just be bad as Britannian colonialism for some reason, and teams up with Suzaku and Gawain, resulting in Sawasaki's capture, and then later Suzaku returns to being Yuffie's knight.
This was an episode. Well, let's talk about it.
I feel like I never know what to think of when China's being deployed in this series.
Yeah, it's a little
made complicated by the fact that technically India is part of China in this setting, and India is aiding the Black Knights through Rakshata. That's how they got the submarine.
I completely forgot about that because the Code Geass setting is fucking bonkers.
Yeah. I think I saw a map where, for some reason, Cambodia is on its own, which does come up when Schneisel says, hey, get in contact with Cambodia. Oh, you see the map of this shit. I don't know, this shit is, ridiculous. Regardless. Yeah. It's hard to know what to think, because it's sort of like, on one hand, you can't export revolution.
Yeah.
So, like, it's not like... It'd be difficult for China to invade Britannia and occupy Japan and liberate Japan. But there is, them supporting an actual Japanese guy trying to do a independence movement with, like, arms and stuff like that is, like, that's been done. That works, I guess.
Yes.
I guess it's complicated a bit because, like,
the framing of it, like, in this particular episode is basically that, Lelouch is scared that if they just sort of, like, basically Lelouch thinks that if they take help from China, they will just be victims of Chinese imperialism next.
Yes. See also how lots of Western leftists react to China doing BRI in Africa.
Yes, there was discourse about this on Twitter today, and that made me think about this episode of Code Geass.
And, like, maybe to some degree it's like Lelouch is just saying this because, like, because the Black Knights to him are his tool to deploy, and his vision for, like, he's like, we'll loop around, this will come up more and more as we get on, that his thing is, I want revenge against Britannia, I want to destroy Britannia and the royal family, and that involves Japanese liberation, and because he's in Japan, he is in a position to use Japanese liberation to achieve that goal, but it's still, like, incidental to his main goal.
Yeah.
Like,
it's
he's not necessarily personally invested in... It's a means to an end.
Yeah, that's a good way of putting it.
But, and, like, therefore Sawasaki, if he's, like, successful in establishing an alternative that's, like, undercuts him,
right?
Because he has to be, like, he is like, well, now I can't personally challenge the Britannians.
Right, because there is a world where, like, this happens and it works out, but what ends up happening as a result of that is just that, Japan becomes like a little zone, and it doesn't really, like, take care about fighting Britannia beyond having their own independence.
Yeah, it's not really, like, no one in Britannia, none of the quote-unquote 11s are invested in personally taking out Shineisel. or anything. And, like, there's definitely, like, one flaw with, for instance, like, the Eastern Bloc was that for most of the countries there that got liberated from the Nazis, they were liberated more by the Red Army than by their own partisans, even though obviously there were partisans down there. And maybe I'm getting the history a bit wrong, but, like, outside of Yugoslavia and Albania, which liberated themselves from the fascists, a lot of the other social Eastern Bloc countries were more deferential to the Soviets because they were liberated from them. And some of that is, like, also Soviet paternalism, which is not great, but, like, still is sort of like that unwittingly being in the orbit, perhaps.
Yeah.
Which is, like, a more real concern, but also it's, like, still, well, when the alternative is the Nazis, that's also, which, the Britannians are, in all the ways that matter, just with more monarchism. So it is, I don't know what the show thinks. The Sawasaki does himself, like, I think there's an argument being made of, like, if you were a real revolutionary, you wouldn't go into exile, you would have stayed here and fight, and I think that to some degree that is true. But it's also true that there's plenty of revolutionaries, like, Lenin, for instance, who, went into exile and then were able to come back to fight another day. So it's complicated.
Yeah. It's
it's one thing if you just run away, and another thing to be like, run away with the intent of coming back with more resources. And Sawasaki even says, "I thought this was a pretty good strategy, to be honest. I didn't think there was anything morally wrong with it."
Yeah, and this is also particularly I think the portrayal of the China in this show also gets more complicated when you consider the fact that these are Japanese writers writing about China from the perspective of real-life Japan, which is a different situation from Japan and China in the world of Code Geass, but obviously their alt history thing is going to be influenced by real-life cultural values and shit.
Yeah. And also, of course, the fact that Japan is in the orbit of the U.S. and was purposely, the long conversation about, the atomic bombings were done to specifically ensure Japan would not be divided because of just how fast the Soviets were, occupying Japanese territory. And so by having an undivided Japan, they could, not actually deal with the fascists and basically just massage them into a more compliant to American interests form. They were able to have a strong imperialist puppet, co-imperialist power, but also vassal, to be defend, to form a perimeter around China, which is what Japan's purpose is, basically.
Right.
Yeah. This is also where we get Zero saying, "Well, actually, I want to do my own Declaration of Independence thing." Also, Lancelot gets a backpack. For people who care about toys.
There's some fun Lelouch and there's some fun Suzaku and Yuffie character stuff in this episode. Suzaku being the most suicidal, dumbest man alive.
Yeah, if he's no, please live, and Suzaku's I appreciate the sentiment, but I do think it's when he stops being a knight to her and starts being a friend to her more. She basically eggs him on to treat him like an equal, which I think happens in the next episode or so. Because I forget if it's this episode or the next one where or not that episode, the one after this or one after that one where he's yes, yes, sure.
yes.
So,
that was really good.
It's a good bit. It's also funny. So many people are Zoom calling in Suzaku is Lancelot, which is funny. Sawasaki is oh, so our great prime minister's son. This is how he turned out to be a dog. Suzaku once again goes, "Oh, you gotta get independence the right way," and I like what Sawasaki says. It's "Oh, so you want justice without ideology," which is again critiquing Suzaku's liberalism, basically. Basically, I think Sawasaki could have been successful, at least in holding a foothold in Kyushu, if not for the fact he was facing two enemy protagonists.
Yeah.
He almost beat Suzaku is the thing. It wasn't because of Gawain is kind of OP and recharge Suzaku. They were able to beat him. I do enjoy Yuffie being the only one privy to the fact that the two boyfriends are teaming up.
Yes.
Obviously, Lelouch also knows this, but
yes, it's a very minor thing. But I also appreciate how a lot of the Britannian tech is named after Arthurian shit. I think that's really fun.
Yes. Yeah. And we did talk about like how the Geass comes from Celtic mythology, so it makes sense. Like, oh yeah, you have Lancelot, you have Gawain.
Yeah. It's like I don't think they're really trying to do too much with like that specific pull, but it's a fun aesthetic choice, even if you're not doing too much with it.
Yeah. Because I don't know like what it makes sense to me that Suzaku, as the quote unquote perfect knight, would get Lancelot, but I also don't know what it means for Lelouch to get Gawain per se.
Yeah.
Other than Gawain is another one of these guys. Funny enough, in the past month I did watch The Green Knight, but
oh, that's a good movie.
It is a good movie, but also I don't think that's like the quote unquote canon interpretation of Gawain. So, in fact, intentionally the opposite. Anyways, there's also like a thing that I'll repeat later, like so the Force are directly loyal to Sawasaki, so the whole effort collapses without him, which is technically true. It's ridiculous to me that the general is called General Tao, like the chicken.
Yeah.
I like the I think we get a bit like technically Diethard is still working at the news agency.
Yes, which is really funny.
But yeah, I think that's. Yeah, I think we're. Yeah, I don't. Do you remember much of the Nina conversation with Yuffie? Like, there's a lot of like Yuffie sort of like struggling with her own powerlessness and like.
No.
She technically has authority in.
Yeah, she like sort of has authority, but is like kind of a figurehead, you know?
Yeah, like her sister overpowers her, and her sister has like a lot of affection for Yuffie, but doesn't trust her beliefs or instincts, basically.
Yeah, she has affection for Yuffie as a person, but not as a like political actor.
Yeah, and then a lot of the other subordinates assigned to her are basically just managing her public relations so she can't actually speak her mind. And then she's like, oh yeah, the one thing I had the power to do, which was like name my own knight, and the guy who did it quit.
Yeah.
Which feels bad. I don't quite get what the conversation with Nina is, but like, I think Nina is misunderstanding things.
Yes.
But somehow Yuffie's like, you know what? That's right, I do love Suzaku. And Nina's like, what? Racism?
Yes,
she doesn't quite say it, but you know.
Yeah, they're kind of like talking past each other a bit.
Well, there is like a degree to it's funny that Nina is like so enamored with Yuffie. Well, gave her Yuffie even explicitly, but also is sort of like, yeah, but I wish she hated the Japanese more and was more racist.
It's so funny. Okushi like, was really on some like big brain character concepts for the show.
The big brain character concept, token lesbian, is specifically like white supremacist lesbian.
Yes, you know, I don't think it's inaccurate to call that a big brain character concept.
Yeah, it's not like there aren't like fascist, racist, gay people. Like, you know, being gay doesn't stop you from being white, but also it's, you know, often the being impressed brings solidarity together. Just, you know, it doesn't always happen. I think that's it for this episode, basically.
Yeah. Let me just take a swig of water real quick, and then I'll read the next summary. Zero prepares for his grand plan to declare the independence of Tokyo with Heart and Todo, while in the background the Japanese population of the ghettos are divided between their alignments towards Zero and Suzaku. Unfortunately for Lelouch, he still has to do student council stuff while trying to organize insurrections, and so gets interrupted by Millie, Suzaku, Colin, Ogi, and the still amnesic Valletta, all bumping into each other as everyone's plots become intertwined and result in hijinks in the storage building. Yuffie is also here in disguise and chats a bit with Lelouch and Nunnally. Shirley, who has rediscovered that Lelouch is Zero from her old diary page, wants to confront Lelouch, but ends up blowing Yuffie's cover, which causes a cruffle and ruins Suzaku's attempt at making the world's biggest pizza, as he must rescue her from the crowd. Now that everyone, including all the news cameras, has their eyes on her, Yuffie uses this moment to announce her plan, approved by Schneisel, to carve out an autonomous Japan. While Yuffie believes that this will help bring her and Lelouch together, Lelouch curses her for ruining his efforts.
Suzaku is gonna make the world's biggest pizza.
Yeah.
With a robot.
It's such a silly bit. Affectionate.
I think the funniest bit is also that, like, it's being used for making pizza, but then Lloyd gives commentary that, like, oh yeah, this is like the rejected prototype robot, personally piloted by Marianne the Flash, and then we find out that Lelouch's mama was apparently a super pilot.
Yes, we also find out that this is why Lloyd is trying to, like, marry Millie so he can, like, get access to this mech.
Yeah, because he's, like, asexual.
Yeah.
He's like, listen, I'm ace, but, you know, you got a cool robot. I don't know to what degree, like, do they have a school festival strictly because these are Japanese writers? Because seeing the Britannians do a school festival feels like cultural appropriation.
Yeah, I mean, there are probably things that are, like, maybe there are things that are, like, kind of adjacent to, you know, school festivals, but no, I think it's,
like, I don't... Like, British and American, like, Anglo-Sphere schools don't do this, really. Like, they're, like, not that they don't have festivals, but they don't have, like, the school festival in the way Japanese
the school festival trademark. This is the episode where we get Tamaki saying he wants to be a bureaucrat in the context of, like, well, one, the episode opens in the funniest way possible, where because both Suzaku and Lelouch have been too busy with their geopolitics plots, they've been missing classes and in detention. Yes.
Which is a good bit. But also we have, like...
This show is so much better at being, like, the school mech show than, like, any of the other ones that have tried to be this.
Yeah. Like, it's not even fair, the degree to which it just excels at it. Better than anything else, basically.
Yes.
We get, like, a bit of, like, oh yeah, there's, like, divides ideologically in the ghettos between, like, the people who are, like, reformist like Suzaku versus those who appeal to Zero, which I think is, like, reasonable.
Yeah, I think that stuff is pretty interesting.
Yeah. There's apparently a new recruit, courtesy of Diethard, which is Sayako the maid, who... Which is really funny, because it's like she's joining the resistance without knowing that the white guy she works for is the leader of the resistance.
It's really good.
It's also funny that, like, Lelouch is at school on the roof trying to, like, talk about, like, give orders to Diethard, and then, like, Millie comes and drags him away. He's like, oh, I gotta hang up. And then Diethard was like, what was that about? Huh?
Yeah, that's
well, he's also on campus. And then there's a lot of like plots colliding because like Oki, at this point Oki is, I think, his to his detriment, as we'll find out, has let his guard down around Valletta. Because he's okay, she's chill actually. So he does take her to the culture festival. He's like, I used to be a teacher before the colonialism happened to me, which is a fun backstory stuff.
Totally.
I like that Callan tries to stab Suzaku again, and Suzaku's like, don't worry about it. At school, we'll pretend we aren't on opposite sides of the war. Just really funny. And then she gets dragged to be like a haunted house person, which is how she bumps into Oki. We also get new characters who are not actually that important, and probably will be in season 2. We get the Glastonites show up, or mentioned.
Yes.
Named after Andreas Glaston. I think like I noticed that there was a group called the Glastonites, and also that Andreas was called Glaston. So I was like, wait a minute, I should probably give him the name Andreas in the summary just to like differentiate when it happens. But
Right.
There has been like the subplot of like Shirley wants to confront Lelouch about the things, and he keeps putting it off. But there is the funny bit where he's it is funny that like halfway through the episode, Lelouch is like, okay, Shirley, I'll talk to you about this later, don't worry about it. And he's like, man, this shit's so easy. I got everything on lock. Everything's going smoothly. Just as things are about to not go smoothly. And of course, C2 wants to have some of the world's biggest pizza.
Yes, the shot with her just standing on the school rooftop and we're just like, but the pizza though. That really got me.
Yeah, because like for those who aren't watching, because of the rush to see Yuffie, Suzaku is unable to actually prepare the pizza, and the big pizza dough just lands on the tree. But yeah, we get like, Nunnally meets Yuffie, which is setting up some heartbreak later. Because it just kind of reaffirms Yuffie, like, oh man, I wish we could go back to the old days. And Nunnally's like, yeah, it'd be nice to, hang out with my cool sister. Because Yuffie's like the only sibling they have who's like chill, basically.
Yes, and is like not an imperialist who's trying to kill them.
Yeah, even though in practice she is still an imperialist part of the machine.
Yeah, she is part of the imperialist. She is not trying to kill them.
Yeah, she's not actively involved, but like we'll talk about it more next episode. But yeah, like she does propose, like, yeah, I'm gonna make the autonomous region of Japan in this region, and then everyone will have equal rights. And of course, a bunch of the settlers are like, oh man, it's because she's, in an interracial couple that she's capitulating instead of being racist.
It's so crazy.
Which I think is this thing the show does well. It's just like, oh yeah, the settlers are still racist, even if they're like the classmates of like the students of our characters. I
think that stuff is pretty good, actually.
I also like that Yuffie's like, this is the perfect plan, and it was also like instantly like approved by Schneizel, which I think gave her a boost in confidence.
Yes, and you
like, someone who actually respects my opinions.
Yes, you get the sense that it's because Schneizel like sees the less idealistic utility in what she's doing.
Yeah, she's definitely like rosy-eyed person who doesn't understand how imperialism works. And Schneizel is like the good cop imperialist who's like, I see how this is useful to us.
Yes.
Which comes up in the next episode, actually. But yeah, it's, you know, Yuffie's like, oh, don't worry, there's a perfect plan, and then Lelouch and Nunnally can go back to being, my brother and sister, and it'll be chill. And Cornelia's like, no, I'm too racist for this. And Lelouch is like, you're ruining my everything. How could you do this to me? He didn't say this because he's like, sulking in a corner in secret, but he is cursing her name.
Yes.
I think also we get like the little bit where like Valletta is like, I wouldn't mind being Britannian if it means being with you. So like he gives him a love confession. And we'll have to put a pin in that plot thread for a bit. Because we're about to get the craziest, most ridiculous episode ever.
Yes, you knew about this before we started.
I mentioned
right?
I mentioned that there was like 3 things that I knew about Code Geass going into it that had been sold on. 1 is the ending, which you haven't got to yet.
Yeah.
2 is the table scene, which we have got to, and 3 was certain shot of Yuffie in this episode that I just happened to see once, and I was like, well, I have no idea how we get there. Presumably this happens in season 2 or something. I know it's here. So I truly have no idea what season 2 is like.
Right.
But yes, I should. I guess I'll read the summary for this episode.
Go for it.
Japanese people. Episode 22. Japanese people are signing up in droves to become citizens of Yuffie's New Japan. Meanwhile, opinions are divided within Kyoto and the Black Knights, especially since it undercuts any armed resistance. Ogi, who is now actually sleeping with Valletta, we just got a shot of that, wants to believe in Yuffie's plan despite the reservations of the others. At some point, Lelouch goes to meet with Shirley, but then does not actually do this, while Andreas pressures Kirihara into having Kyoto surrender peacefully and integrate into the new government, so, they know. The next day, Lelouch shows up at the inaugural ceremony in Gawain and asks to speak with Yuffie privately. Lelouch plans to have Yuffie tank her credibility by shooting him on camera, where he'll miraculously survive. But she ends up winning him over to her side, just like, being a nice sister. And then the two shake hands. Unfortunately, Lelouch decides to go haywire right when he makes a really poorly timed and really stupid comment, resulting in Yuffie suddenly being brainwashed into committing genocide on the Japanese. Yes, really. The stadium thus erupts into carnage as Yuffie orders the Britannians to kill all the Japanese there, while she herself takes up arms to participate personally. Lelouch, in horror at the massacre he accidentally brought about, resigns himself to using the tragedy to the Black Knight's advantage and orders an attack on the Britannians to protect the Japanese.
Yeah, can you imagine watching this shit weekly as it came out?
Yeah. I'm going to quote what... Because in the main podcast, Brad and Red were like, I can't wait to you to get to a certain episode. I think Red says like, there's one episode that I wish I could watch with you to see your reaction. And it was this one. Let me see what is. How did they react to this? I post in the chat. Lol. I see. To Yuffie with a machine gun. Brad was like, Lamau, we've been waiting for this, and Red was like, in Code Geass, anything can happen.
That's true. Anything can in fact happen in Code Geass.
Yeah. So...
What did you think?
Maybe let's work up to... Let's maybe work up to it.
Okay.
I have complicated feelings about this.
Sure.
One, we got a lot of people... A lot of Japanese people are like, okay, I'm gonna... this is supposed to be a semi-independent Japan where we have equal rights, so I'm gonna become a citizen. Cornelia dislikes it because she's racist, but Schneisel is like, yeah, it's a release valve, it's reformist, and so it will undercut resistance movement. That's why he approved the plan, because like, this is going to undercut resistance. They're going to stop fighting once they have a semi-independent but not actually independent Japan. And Kirihara is, like, in Kyoto, they're debating this because, like, they know, and the Black Knights too, they know that this is going to disrupt their armed rebellion, their armed resistance. And, like, it is like a deal with the devil almost. Kirihara argues that there's a concession got out through struggle, which is true, but also, like, you know, there's obviously drawbacks to, like, capitulating. You're like, okay, we'll take the deal, and then you disarm, and then it allows for the Empire to rearm, reorganize, and go on the offensive again.
Yeah.
The Black Knights are also, like, losing membership because it's like, oh yeah, we have Japan now, so we don't need to rise up. So that's, you know, directly impacting the armed groups. And, you know, Toto and Rakchash are like, this is a problem if we have to disarm to the new Japanese government and become collaborators. Even though they're also like, but if we oppose the technically independent New Japan, then we're basically just, like, you know, they're going to call us terrorists, and, like, we're going to turn our backs against the people, even if so technically correct. And, like, Ogi is complicated because now he's, like, he probably should have kept up his mistrust of Valletta. Like, it's tricky because, like, you know, it's anime amnesia and not, like, real life situation. But he is kind of just, like, because her anime amnesia seems to be sticking, he's, like, willing to be like, well, I want to have a relationship with this person who I have now slept with. Because it was very important that they show that shot. And so, you know, when the massacre happens, he does feel pretty betrayed by it. But yeah, it's like, he's like, despite being maybe, like, arguably, if there was, my feeling based on, like, the watching the season is, like, if something were to happen to Lelouch / Zero, Ogi would make sense as the actual leader of the Black Knights.
Yeah, I mean, they basically have him in, like, the second in command role, so...
Yeah, like, it is mentioned later, like, yeah, Toto is good at, like, being a general, but not being, like, the leader of an organization. But, like, yeah, it is interesting that Ogi, despite probably being effectively the backup leader and also probably a better leader for the Black Knights just on account of actually being Japanese and not, like, a prince with a vendetta. He's the one who's, like, because of his, like, weird romance plot, is like, I don't know, maybe the colonizer is legit in wanting to give us reforms. Which I think maybe this is a comparison I brought when watching. I think it's worth bringing up. But, like, in the modern context, this might, Yuffie doesn't know it, but she is basically doing the Oslo Accords.
Right.
And we all know how that turned out. Like, it, I think before the Oslo Accords, the PLO was, like, the most active and strong resistance group within Palestine, and then it kind of became the the official government of the quote-unquote state of Palestine, which is not really an actual independent state, and is still, like, beholden to Israel, and of course that's land still stolen by Israel. But now, since the PLO has become the legalized collaborator government on behalf of Israel, and now, like, fights against other liberation groups, even as the genocide of Palestinians is, like, continued under their watch.
Yes.
And there was a degree to which, like, that is kind of what presumably would happen here, despite Yuffie's best intentions. Which, me trying to take doing political reads of the show seriously, because I've seen, like, I have a friend / listener who is like, I appreciate someone who's actually trying to take the politics of the show seriously and not just giving up because the show is dumb.
Yeah, I mean,
so I want to live up to the challenge.
The show has I think the show has a more interesting politics than a lot of anime. Obviously, this is not a super high
I think
bar,
it does. I also think,
but I think it still needs to be said.
Yeah, I'm just saying, like, I know that when I haven't listened to the Ghost Diver seasons for Geass yet, because I'm gonna say that for when we're totally done.
Right.
But my understanding from other pods is that, like, there was an attempt to take it seriously, and they kind of gave up at some point. And so I'd like to still give it a shot, but also, like, I can understand how when Lelouch says something stupid and makes a character who wouldn't have done genocide start doing genocide, it can be harder to, like, read into the politics of the show seriously, because, like, well, this is the things happen, wild rides thing, as opposed to, like, actually, because it's tricky to, like, when you have a character, the protagonist's power is he can get things done by, like, making people do things they would not actually do. It's hard, it's complicated, and how to do, like, political analysis when that's more of a melodrama plot. And in this case, it's like, the drama plot is he says something stupid, and then his power is starting to lose control, like a Mao, and that's what causes the tragedy. And of course, like, you know, this character drama of, like, oh yeah, Lelouch, I did something horrible by accident that I didn't want to do, but now that's happened, I have to use it, but also, and I can't, like, how do I atone for this? Can I absolve myself of this? I can't, maybe. Which I think creates interesting character stuff for Lelouch, but does make it harder to necessarily do a clean political read, because, like, you know, character acting out of character as a plot point.
Yeah, I guess, okay, let's for 2 seconds, right? Let's try to take this seriously. I guess.
I mean, I would like to. I said all that. I said all that to basically preface that I'd still like to do it seriously. It's just like I also recognize why it is hard to do so with the show being what it is.
No,
I know. One, my brain is just like this, so I'd like to do it anyway. But, like,
100%. Okay. So if we're to try to take this seriously, obviously, I think the show is kind of gesturing at the point you're making, which is that Yuffie's reformism would not work. And I also think it's like, I think they are trying to do a, like, metatextual thing with, like, sunrise shows, because, like, Yuffie is very much in the, like, peace princess archetype, right? Like, she's your Relina.
Oh yeah, she's a Relina priestcraft.
She's your Lacus, whatever.
Yeah.
But a lot of those characters are, like, very successful in the thing that they do.
Yes, because the writers think they are correct and think it can realistically be achieved.
Yes, whereas Yuffie, is basically framed as, at best, well-intentioned but functionally useless.
Yeah. Which is a source of, like, distress for her, but, like, it's also, like, true, basically.
Yeah, it's like, Suzaku and Yuffie are kind of like sort of like a more critical version of the, like, Kira and Lacus thing.
That is... I think you say that, yeah, that is true. I didn't quite make the connection there. Like, I made a connection between Suzaku and...
Amuro.
Not Amuro, but...
Kira?
Kira.
Yes.
Yeah. Kira Yamato.
Yes. My hated anime here.
Yeah, but, like, yeah, I didn't quite make the connection. Oh, yeah. Him and Yuffie as the Kira Lacus pair didn't stand out to me. But it also makes sense because, like, that was literally the last Gundam thing that they made before Code Geass. Like,
yeah.
Geass Season 1 ends, and that's when we actually get Gundam 00 Season 1. So,
yeah.
So yeah, I definitely, like, Suzaku was interesting as, like, gonna use the D word, deconstruction. A criticism, like a grounded criticism of how Kira would be in real life.
Yes, and I find that stuff to be very striking because in a lot of ways I think Kira becomes like the template for a mecha protagonist. You know.
Yeah.
Following
the third way, the third way super pacifism in a war, and outside of ideology, outside of just absolute pacifism.
Yes, credit to Suzaku. At least Suzaku believes in things. They're like stupid things that are incorrect, but at least he has beliefs.
Yeah, and he's pushed back on his beliefs. Like Callan's like, even while he's blushing with him on the beach while she's handcuffed, she does call him an imperialist dog.
Yes, exactly.
Which is great for her. But I think one of the conclusions I made of like trying to take this Deus Ex Machina seriously in like how can you read it politically is like I can see it as like this is not Yuffie's intention or what she wants, but it is kind of a logical outcome of doing the Oslo thing, as we can see post October 7th. If the Oslo didn't happen and we didn't set up the fake Palestinian government that was just a puppet of Israel, then we wouldn't be having the genocide right now because the resistance would have continued. So like I think it's interesting to think about it that way. Like, oh yeah, like it's not. It is in terms of like writing. It's like Lelouch says something really stupid at a poor time that causes a character to act completely out of character in the most fucked up and wild way possible. But also, it is like looking at the big picture is kind of like doing a speed run of what the logical outcome of what our plan actually would be.
Yes, which is
despite
kind of interesting.
Yes. Like, it's difficult for me, because I'm not in the writer's head. I don't know what degree they thought this. But, regardless, it's an interesting read for me to pull out of the show. And I do appreciate the show lets me have that read. Because I definitely think this is definitely, like, as I said, this is definitely a case of, like, I can see people just being like, well, I'm just going to throw out my hands and enjoy the ride.
Yeah.
Just because of like how crazy this moment is.
No, really, my thing sort of like rewatching the show after so many years is that I think it is a goofy, silly melodrama show where a lot of over-the-top shit happens, but I think it is a lot better than I remembered.
Yeah. Like, I'm watching this the first time, so there's a degree to which I'm also like in it for the ride. Like, that's part of like why I want to I wanted to save my first watch for a podcast so I could record live, not live, but like document my first exposure to the show, my blind exposure as much as possible to the wild things that happen, because like truly there's so many things that I was not spoiled on, and the few things I did not have context for where they came in, so they still surprised me. Like, like I mentioned, the Nina table thing is just inserted into 2 scenes for some reason, and that took me out of it more than anything. It is like I think because like I assumed this would happen later, I did also like think like there would be character reasons Yuffie would do this, so it was a bit disappointing. I was just like, oh yeah, Lelouch's powers just went haywire. Like she didn't actually have the agency in doing this.
Right.
But again, that also creates interesting stuff for Lelouch, where he's like, well, I indirectly caused this massacre. Well, I can't admit it.
Yeah.
There's interesting stuff with, I guess, going back to, because we talked about the main bullet point of the episode, just some other stuff. There's interesting stuff with Kirihara, where, like, he's trepidatious but cautiously optimistic about, like, the plan. And the others accuse him of, like, well, you're the guy who's, like, technically the collaborator who would profit off of this venture. And he does actually, like, meet with Andreas, and he's like, oh yeah, so you're gonna fold up shop with Kyoto and Black Knights, right? Which is interesting. It's like, oh, they know. They they had no illusions of this. Like, at the very least, I don't know to what degree like the Britannians always knew, but like, at the very least, Cornelia's showing up, they were unable to uncover it. So it's interesting, and he is like there at the stadium when like they're about to have like the big ceremony, which does lead to an interesting thing where like when Zero shows up in Gawain, Kirihara like has this internal monologue of like, you know, he was like, I was gonna keep Zero's identity secret for all my life, because like it's one thing for people to know that Zero is a Britannian leading a struggle against colonialism, but if they find out he's specifically part of the royal family, then that is a problem, because then it becomes not like a liberation struggle, but like a proxy war between different factions of the royal family.
Yes.
Even though it's hard to know to what degree Lelouch thinks of it that way, but it is functionally what it is. Which is where it gets interesting when like he basically sets up.
At this point in the show, I don't think you really have any impression that Lelouch has any interest in ruling the Britannian state for himself. You kind of just more get the impression that he just wants to destroy what is already there.
Yeah, but regardless, if it comes out that like, a Britannian prince is leading an insurrection, it becomes more like, it gets framed as like, oh, this is a rebellion between rival factions of the royal family.
Totally.
Regardless of what Lelouch's actual intentions are of like wanting to dismantle and abolish the Britannian system.
Yes.
Not that we necessarily know what Lelouch necessarily wants to set up in its place, but he presumably hasn't thought that far, to be honest.
No,
or at least he hasn't told us.
Yeah.
But I do think it was interesting, just like, oh yeah, like Kirihara was like, yeah, by all accounts, like again, it does feel weird that like a Britannian, and specifically the prince, would lead this insurrection. It's only because of like anime plot reasons, and also Kirihara's like, nah, I know him, he's legit, don't worry about it. Only because I personally know him. Which is, you know, partly just you're writing a plot, all the characters have to be somewhat connected, but also, you know, he's not true to what a real liberation struggle would be. I guess you could argue that like Lelouch is on some Lawrence of Arabia shit, but also, you know.
Right. Lelouch is like, in the broadest sense, he's like a class traitor.
Yeah. In this case, the class being like settler colonists, but that is technically a class category. So, one thing I've brought up is that like Gawain is technically a 2-pilot system, because like C2 is always in the cockpit with Lelouch, which also means that often when Lelouch is off to do something else, she is just piloting Gawain herself, which is pretty cool.
Yes, it makes it feel more like C2's robot than Lelouch's robot, which I appreciate.
Yes. Yeah, like I think that is also like, I think that is the thing that makes it feel better about Lelouch getting his own fancy palace swapped Gundam, is that, well, technically it's kind of like as much, if not more, C2's robots.
Yes.
Because I feel like I did like that bit early on where, like, yeah, Lelouch gave Callan the good robot because, like, I'm the commander, but you're the ace. So,
yes.
Which does lead to a thing where, like, C2 interacts with Suzaku, but isn't really important other than, like, Suzaku gets a brain blasted and, like, oh, the things are going wrong.
Yep.
Which I guess happens also, like, on the island when, like, there's the Geass symbol that happens during the kerfuffle when, like, the fake hostage situation turns into a real hostage situation and the ground collapses. There's, like, the Geass symbol that shows up. Which I didn't really talk about, but, like, yeah, it's there. Also, I do think, like, there's a degree to which, like, you could argue that Lelouch being able to be talked down into, like, collaborating with Yuffie is also, like, a reflection of his position as, like, the leader of the resistance, but not himself being Japanese. Like, the fact that he's still, like, he's only in position to, like, collaborate with her because he is literally her brother, and she is doing this to be on good terms with her brother. And if it was like Ogi, then maybe she would not be giving him this offer, or at least in the same way. So, like, Lelouch's willingness to collaborate and capitulate before, like, mishap powers happen can also be seen, like, maybe a reflection of, like, his own class position and interests a bit, maybe.
Right.
And then also, D-Tart continues with the Joker as he's, like, watching this massacre, is going, like, ah, yes, I'm gonna record this for everyone. He's a very normal man.
Very funny.
They truly got the best voice actor. They really got the best voice actor to play this guy.
Totally.
I guess in that case, shall we do the next episode? I think that should be.
Yeah. Yeah, let's do it.
Yeah, because I think we mostly covered episode 22.
Yes. While Suzaku tries to find Yuffie in the chaos, he finds her too late, having already been shot by Guildrex Zero. As the Black Knights drive out the Britannians and secure control of the area surrounding Mount Fuji, Cornelia is unable to contact Andreas, who went missing after bumping into Lelouch during the chaos at the stadium. Yuffie is brought into the medbay of the Avalon, but ultimately succumbs to her wounds and dies. In her last moments, Suzaku lies to her about the success of her plan, even as a group of Japanese survivors of the massacre damn her name and celebrate Zero's declaration of independence for a new United States of Japan. Later, as preparations get underway for the Knights to capture the Tokyo settlement, Lelouch laments to see too that out of the blood on his hands, and also now that his Geass out of his control, C2 is the only one he can talk to unmasked. Also, C2 can apparently talk to Marianne's ghost or something. Elsewhere, the other pieces fall into place. Violetta is attacked in Ogi's home by a Japanese mob. Nina works on the pizza robot so she can avenge Yuffie. Andreas gets a robot to do something, and Kaguya Sumeragi, the priestess girl from Kyoto, declares herself to be Zero's future wife. Also, Jeremiah breaks out of the tub of goop he's been in. Finally, Suzaku, who's gotten an exposition about Geass from some guy called VB, gives Lelouch a claw and declares his newfound will to kill Zero out of hate. Lelouch tells him to fight for Yuffie's sake, and then after hanging out, beckons his best friend to come kill him while laughing maniacally.
The monologue combined with finger motions Lelouch does after he hangs up with Suzaku is the fruitiest thing I've ever seen.
That scene is so good. That's like fucking peak melodrama.
Yeah. Like, it's not confirmed, but it's like all but said, and in some ways kind of hinted in the finale that this is the moment where Suzaku already knows that Lelouch is Zero.
Yeah.
That's how I read the scene anyway.
Yes. The finale, I think, pretty much confirms that reading.
Notably, I think it's only in this episode that Valletta takes up a new Japanese name, Chigusa, but that's immediately going to be dropped because it only happens in that one scene, and then that plot fight's going to go in a different direction, so... there's been a bit... Like, I think this, like, a few episodes ago, there's a bit where, like, C2 is just talking to someone in the hallway, and then we get... In this one, it confirms that she's speaking to Marianne, which is like, well, I guess we'll find out about that later in Season 2. I guess for starters, Lelouch does just kill Yuffie, which I didn't see coming because I thought Yuffie was going to be a character for a lot longer. Like, I didn't think she was... I thought she would make it to Season 2.
Right.
To be honest, my expectation was that Cornelia would have died in Season 1, and then Yuffie would have taken up over for her in Season 2, and then Season 2 would have been about, like, by being put in a position of power, like, she may have had to fight Lelouch. That was my guess of where things were going. But I guess is, given her what has happened, there isn't really a good way to. You can't really put this genie back in the bottle.
Yeah.
Like, this is kind of like the only thing you could do in this situation. Like, it's not like Lelouch can turn off the genocide button in her, and also, now that she's done it, you can't take that back, and so all he really can do is just put her out of her misery, basically.
Yeah.
And Suzaku doesn't like that. There's a degree to which Suzaku is, like, blind to what she is doing and hates that Zero killed her regardless. But he's a bit more justified when he finds out why it happened. I'd never seen the character V2 in my life, so I was surprised to see him show up.
Yeah.
We'll see what that's all about. The scene of, like, Suzaku having to, like, lie to Yuffie about how good her plan turned out while everyone is saying, damn Yuffie, you demon, you Hitler, is good.
Yes, totally.
United States and Japan is stupid, though. It's definitely like feels like it comes from a different read of what the US actually is, which may be
yes,
due to,
yeah.
like, you know,
it's
Japan.
Very silly.
It's like, you know, I mean, there is, like, you know, the dominant perspective of the US is that, like, oh yeah, it was an anti-colonial movement against the British, when really it was just like a splinter faction of the settler colonists here wanting to run things themselves instead of referring to London.
Yes.
But, you know, it's also like, oh yeah, Lucia's like, oh yeah, we need a new Japan that isn't tied to the ideas of the older one. That's why it's not just Japan, it's the United States of Japan. Whatever that means.
It's
continues to be Joker mode. He's like
very silly.
Yeah. Definitely the most liberal coded mode in the show so far.
Totally.
I also, well, yeah, one, Dieter continues to be Joker moded as he's like, well, look at all this footage of genocide we have, we can use to propagandize. I like the bit of, like, one, Lelouch, blood on his hands, guilty as fuck. Like, oh man, I did a genocide accidentally, indirectly, through Yuffie. But also he's like, my powers are out of control, and now I have to wear my mask to literally everyone, except for you. That sucks.
Yes.
Also, I think
the Lelouch C2 stuff in these last episodes is pretty good, but I'd rather talk about that in the finale season, the season finale, because that's where that stuff kind of gets paid off.
Yeah, him, like, getting Nunley calling is like, oh, so when are we going to meet Yuffie again after he's already shot her to death is like, that's the good knowledge. Oh, I can't tell her I killed her because she did a genocide. He's like, you didn't see the news, did you? And she's like, no. And I said, well, probably for the best, to be honest. Also, we get, like, the classic Nina reaction image, screaming face.
Yes,
she finds out Yuffie's dead.
Nina is such a funny character.
Listener, if you haven't seen the episode, you've certainly seen this image before. They went all out and making, like, the most grotesque screaming face ever for it. There's a bit where, like, I think Rivals is like, so when are you going to call Lelouch Lulu again? And she's like, what? Because I guess she hasn't actually gotten her memories back, right?
Yeah, it's more like, I think the idea more is that, like, looking at the note is making her realize that something is wrong.
Yeah, like, she doesn't remember her past Lelouch, but she does know, okay, I had some sort of past relationship with him. And obviously she's just been around him enough through the student council, but, like, everyone kind of realized... She probably is not aware that the Lelouches set up the kayfabe, the fake kayfabe, where everyone thinks she's pretending to not know him, even though she doesn't actually.
Yes.
There's a bit where Kaguya finally gets to be on screen for prominentness, and she's like, "You're gonna be my future husband, Zero. Also, because you wear a mask, you need like a mascot to be the face of the Black Knights, and that'll be me, your wife." And then Lucia's like, "Well, if you're the goddess of victory, I'm already made a deal with the devil," and walks away, like, all sulky, like. And then, yeah, they're preparing to do the invasion of Tokyo. It's funny that both Cornelia and Zero are like, if we kill the leader, it'll defeat the other army, because that's the way they set themselves up. Which, to me, is almost like, oh, because Lelouch is a Britannian prince, he has unknowingly reproduced the Britannian military structure out of the Black Knights by making his own personal organization that is an extension of him and loyal to him, as opposed to like an actual independent resistance group. Which I think is like ties into the thing as we talk about with like Toto versus Ditar earlier, like, and like also the Kirihara stuff. Like, despite Lelouch's maybe intentions and despite everything else, by trying to make a group that exists for his aims, that, you know, Japanese independence is incidental, he has made, like, he did kind of reproduce like basically a splinter faction of the Britannians, even if no one in the group actually thinks of himself that way. Which I think is interesting to think about, just like recreating the thing that you want to destroy by accident. And it certainly is not helped by, like, even though Lelouch disavows the Britannian, like, elitist system, and like the eugenic system, he's still a bit of like, he's still very like narcissistic.
Yes.
It's just that he doesn't base his narcissism on his lineage. He just bases on like, well, I'm just a genius. I'm just the, I'm just the capable one. Well, I guess to some degree it's also like will to power a bit. Like, he doesn't necessarily think like, it's more like maybe it's more like, because I have to achieve my goals, I have to be this person, and so like maybe there's some of it like, I don't know, because he's like he definitely has like his own ego that he was arrogant towards, like when he was doing chess with the rich people early on in the start of the series, but like, I don't think that stuff, he doesn't give any indication he thinks that stuff because he happens to have been born a prince. He just seems to think like his own.
It's just like his personality.
Yeah, and also like he is like, his priorities are sort of overshadowing everyone else. Like, I have to kill my dad, the emperor. Then if I have to make Japan independent to do it, I will do it. But that's like secondary to what the actual goal is. And yeah. You get the call. Oh yeah, the good bit is like Lelouch gets called by Suzaku on Yuffie's phone.
Yes.
Which is not commented on, but it's a good bit. Which is, I think, part of why I was able to like, oh yeah, Suzaku. Well, one, V2 was there, but like Suzaku's like, okay. Suzaku's like, listen, Lelouch, I used to think that killing was wrong, but now I hate Zero so much that I think I can kill someone. And I do like Lelouch is just like, yeah, you should just fight for Yuffie's sake. And it says like, oh, come kill me. Well, not kill him, but he's like, Lelouch gets going in his own head, like, he plays up the cartoon villain to himself. I think also because of his own guilt of what happened, because like he's definitely like, I am the villain because look at the blood I've spilt.
Totally.
You know. I think it's definitely a degree to like I don't think Lelouch has a death wish in the way Suzaku does, at least not yet, because like he still has to
do his mission.
Well, yeah, he hasn't brought about the thing. He hasn't brought about the world finale yet, but I think it's definitely a degree to which he's like his guilt is weighing on him in a way where he's like maybe as self-destructive as Suzaku was.
Yeah, he kind of has,
and how he carries himself.
He kind of he's like internalized this. He's internalized this like mentality that like if the only way for him is to be a villain, then he might as well lean into it.
Yeah, because it's easier that way. I also like, well, I don't deserve to. It would be wrong of me to presumably have like. With my sins already, my hands are all bloody, so whatever kind of thing. Which we will loop around back to in the final confrontation, because it's interesting what things he chooses to say in the final confrontation at the end. But yeah, it's definitely like it's definitely unsaid, but I think it's definitely like not that he doesn't have his own moments of like laughing maniacally like a villain earlier in the show, but I think that's definitely like his own monologue of like, Suzaku, come get me, all the blood I've spilled. He's leaning into it.
Yeah.
Like it's hard not to like read his guilt fueling him, but also like, well, I guess this is what I got to do. I got to double down. It almost becomes sunk cost fallacy in a way.
Right. Especially because like at this point he is come to
accept. Go on.
Oh, I was saying that I think at this point he has decided that there's no way forward that doesn't involve murdering Suzaku.
Yeah. Though he still doesn't really want to do it. Obviously.
No, he doesn't want to do it, but he doesn't feel like there's any other choice for him.
Yeah, definitely kind of feeling like the Berserk Griffith Mountain of Corpses type shit.
Yeah.
Just like, and now so like also it's like all the people who like the fact that his mistake made not just Yuffie but also all the people she killed die weighs on him as like such a grave sin. He's almost like, I have to keep going to make that worth it in a way, to make that cost worth it probably.
Yes,
Which also means like he has to like lean into what being the kind of person who did that means, and also in a way. But yeah, I think with that we get to like him just saying, "Oh yeah, destruction is needed before creation," and then cue the opening of the next episode, because there's kind of like some overlap there of the ground exploding.
Right.
Wait, is that me? Is that me? That's probably me. That's 24?
Yeah, because then I do 25.
I think by accident you got the longer summaries.
That's fine. I can yap.
I think the just by coincidence the even numbered episodes just had longer summaries.
Oh, you mean the odd numbered one? Yeah, the odd numbered ones had longer.
Yeah, the odd numbered ones had longer summaries. Yeah. Anyway, episode 24. The battle for Tokyo opens with the ground beneath the Britannian forces collapsing beneath their feet due to many Geass-influenced collaborators, which Diethard has a think about. Toto's forces successfully pushed Cornelia back to the Royal Palace, but are held back by Guilford and the newly arrived Galastan Knights, who will probably be important in Season 2. Meanwhile, the Black Knights capture Ashford Academy, which Lelouch plans to use as new headquarters. Consequently, the Student Council and Nunnally are taken hostage, and Lelouch is able to use this to trap Suzaku and Lancelot once again. With that taken care of, an overconfident Lelouch lands on the roof of the palace, where Cornelia waits in ambush and nearly takes him out with her superior pilots and skills. Lelouch is only able to get the upper hand thanks to Andreas, who backstabs Cornelia under the influence of the Geass, and is blown up by Gawain for his efforts. Meanwhile, Valletta, who has regained her memories, also shows up and shoots Ogi, which causes disarray amongst the knights. Nunley tells the student council to use this opportunity to rescue Suzaku, meaning she's all alone when V2 shows up to get her.
Alright.
So this episode is...
This episode is
mostly as you can expect,
set up for the finale, I feel like.
First. Yeah. Is there much to talk about on its own, or...?
Yeah, let me just think. I guess it'd probably be pretty helpful to know. I think the airing of these two episodes, let me double check, but I'm pretty sure the airing of these two episodes got delayed.
In the original air date, these two episodes aired a few months later, and were aired, I think, like, in the same night, back-to-back, as like a 1-hour special or something.
Yes, which is why they also have a new opening.
Yeah. I gotta say, there's a lot of uncreativity in the opening and Edie, I think, for this series, where I think there's a lot of reused footage between them.
Yeah, I made this joke when I made this joke to a friend a while back. This opening feels less like an anime opening and more like a visual novel opening where you, like, flash the character sprites and some cool CGs.
Yeah. Though not in the stylish way of the super hippie opening, but it's more like the more, like, subdued way of the White Album 2 opening.
Yeah.
Where you get the title card, the character card of Haruki, but it's blank because he doesn't have a sprite.
Yes. I don't really have too much to say about this episode on its own. I do think the way they let's just do the finale and then we can talk about it together, because it is basically one 2-part episode.
Yeah, because I'm like, well, Jeremiah, but also that just gets introduced early here.
That's also in episode 25. Yes.
Yeah.
Lelouch reveals himself to a defeated Cornelia and attempts to use his Geass to question her, only to find out that not only does she know nothing, she's also the least guilty party in Marianne's death ever. Before Lelouch can bring Cornelia into his custody, C2 informs him that Natalie has been kidnapped, and Jeremiah shows up fully cyber-new-type moded and causes problems with his giant robot. Lelouch is only able to get away by dropping a literal building on him, and leaves the rest of the battle to Chodo and Deedhart as he heads over to Thought Elevator Island and turns off his comms. Meanwhile, the student council is captured by the Black Knights again, and then Cecile drops in with mechs of her own in order to rescue everyone. Suzaku is called over by Cornelia, who is hazy over her encounter with Lelouch, but remembers enough to tell him where he went. She asks him to clear Yuffie's name as her knight, and officially recognizes him as such before sending him off. As for the battle, despite all they have going for them, the tide is turned against the Black Knight, as the Black Knight's organization has collapsed now that Zero is fucked off without warning. Still incapacitated, Ogi tells Colin to go after Zero by tailing Suzaku. Also, Nina finishes her robot, which causes Lloyd to declare a ceasefire lest she blow up the whole city. Over on the island, Lelouch worries that everything he's done would have been pointless if something happens to Nunnally. He and C2 have a mind melt blast where they reaffirm their partnership before being interrupted by Jeremiah again. C2 leaves Lelouch with a kiss before taking off in the Gawain, while lying about not sacrificing herself by dragging Jeremiah into the depths of the ocean. In the cave, Suzaku confronts Lelouch and reveals his identity to Colin by shooting off his mask. Lelouch's effort to secure his help to save Nunnally one more time fall on deaf ears, and Suzaku declares his former friend too far gone and must be killed. The two pull guns on each other and bang. What a
that
good
sure
finale.
Is how they ended the season.
What a fucking banger finale. I could take or leave, like, Cyber New Type Jeremiah, but the rest of it bangs.
Yeah, I mean, he's kind of superfluous.
Yes, I do feel
he just shows up to help in a literal mobile armor, which is funny.
Yes, I feel like Code Geass is the only mecha anime I've seen where there's only one Cyber New Type character, and it's not a girl.
Honestly, we could use some more for that.
I agree.
Especially because, like, you know, it's not like... Not that Tomina's track record is necessarily good, but, you know. Even if I also do like the Crazy Girls of Zeta.
No, I also like the Crazy Girls of UC Gundam, but it's like, I feel like in most mecha anime, this is a very, like, gendered archetype, so it's really funny to see it, separated from that context.
There is a good bit with Jeremiah is, like, because he did the rest of Bartley as part of his coup, he does, like, be like, you experimented on me as revenge, didn't you? And we don't have disconfirmation of that. But also, he was in a bad spot when he got captured. So it's hard to tell, for sure. So kind of fucked up. They do say some shit about Code R and the Circle of Willis, and I'm like, well, I don't know what the fuck that is. That you're just being like Evangelion right now with just saying stuff. We get the battle opening up with, like, the collaborators purging the ground beneath the Britannians. Which does have Diethard going, I don't know how he did this, but maybe Jeremiah and Valetta's theory is correct. And we don't have any confirmation of that, but it's interesting that Diethard, that way back before he, like, joined the Black Knights, we did have that meeting with Valletta and Jeremiah where they're trying to talk to him. And so, presumably they gave them, like, ideas. There was the bit where, like, Lloyd taunts Suzaku, be like, haha, you can't get the keys to Lancelot because it's against orders, and Suzaku just decks him and steals the keys. And then Lloyd gets pouty about it for the rest of the two-parter. Which is funny. I think what is said when he's talking to Cecile is that he was trying to protect Suzaku in his own way, but also he's like a weird goofy tsundere, so he can't actually, like, show actual emotions to people, I guess.
Yeah.
I guess that's probably what he's going for, but there is a bit where Oki says, like, yeah, one of the collaborators inside the school is Sayako, and then Lelouch is like, huh? What? When did that happen?
That is really funny.
But also, so much happens that he's not able to, like, follow up on this, because he's like, he doesn't actually meet up with her or talk to her about it.
Yes.
There's a little bit in Britannia proper, and they call it the Britannian homeland, where, like, there's the council of the royalty, where Charles is, I guess, doing whatever he's up to, but apparently the guy leading the council is the Schneisel's eldest brother or older brother, Prince Odysseus, who I would not have thought to be, like, one of the princes of the show, because he has the most nothing character design.
Right.
So I guess, I don't know, he's, I guess, part of the royal family, but he's not actually important. We get, you know, incredible moment where, like, the Black Knights take over the news stations and all of Diethard's coworkers see him coming in pulling a gun on them.
Can you fucking imagine?
It's so funny.
It is really good.
Love this guy. You know what? I think someone asked me who my favorite character was, and I was like, I wasn't sure. I was like, oh, you know, I like C2, I like Zero, but maybe Diethard's my favorite. He's just so funny.
No, he's really good. Like, I remember in the first episode we recorded of this, you were like, oh, Diethard doesn't seem that important. And I'm like, yeah, he is like a secondary character, but he's like a pretty memorable one.
Yeah, like, because, like, in that first batch, I think he only shows up for, like, 1 or 2 episodes, and, like, he's not, like, he shows up in the first episode, and it's like, what are you doing here? And then in the fourth episode, he's, like, I guess he films, like, the Zero's reveal, which, of course, is his start of Darkness, his Joker moment, but, like, you know, he doesn't make a big impression until, like, later on, when he's actually, like, joining the Black Knights. But no,
yes, it was just one of those. It was just one of those funny. It was just one of those, like, funny things for me. Like, who had, like, the full show
if
context.
You know, you know. Yeah. And, you know, it's been interesting to have his, like, view contrasted with Toto, for instance. Like, Toto, less interesting character, but also, like, politically more sound. Like, I agree more with Toto's politics, even if as a character he's like, well, he's alright.
Yeah, he's not a super interesting character, but, like, he's a guy you want to have in a scene so he can express his view and, like, bounce off of other characters.
Yeah, also it's cool when he wins in a robot fight, in his robot school.
It is true.
To me, he's, like, Toto's, like, the most unambiguously, like, heroic character in the show, for me. Just because he's, like, the normal-ass liberation guy.
Right.
He's like, I'm gonna fight for the liberation of my people. That's very, noble. Suzaku is just killing guys in a Muso battle. I don't know to what degree, like, Suzaku was killing guys in previous operations and feeling bad about it, but he is definitely, like, less restrained in, like, just killing the Black Knights in this episode. Which is interesting, I think. Also, we get Valletta with a memory back somehow, but presumably through the mob, and then her awakening. We see the mob coming in, and then we see the aftermath of the mob where they're all dead. She does get a memory back, and then she's like, "Oh, wait, I'm racist, actually," and then shoots Oki.
Yes.
Which, unfortunately, her, like, showing up and Ogi's like, okay, I guess I'll go be with her secret, and then get shot for it, is part of the dominoes falling for the Black Knights.
Totally.
In part, I guess, because, this is where I think we get into, like, the problems of Lelouch as an actual revolutionary leader, as, like, the royal settler prince whose priority is, like, Nunnally and fighting the royal family and less the actual liberation of Japan, where he's like, oh, Nunnally got kidnapped, I'm gonna go take care of that, you guys deal with this or whatever. And because of how he set up the Black Knight and himself as, like, the master strategist, he's made himself too essential on the battlefield, so, like, it's like, oh yeah, Diethard is good at the communications and intelligence, Toto is, like, a great fighter and a great general, but they aren't necessarily, like, leaders of an organization.
Yeah, totally.
And meanwhile, Ogi, who's maybe the best guy to actually fill the role, gets shot and incapacitated. And that's when they start getting disarray, once he gets shot, there's, like, whole chaos in the school, which allows them to go, like, okay, in the chaos, in this disarray. Like, I could definitely see, like, even if, like, Lelouch fucking off is not good in any scenario for the Black Knights, I think. But I think the situation would still be salvageable or not as bad if Oki was still not bedridden and conscious to take charge, I think. But, like, as things stands, like, Lelouch basically, like, fucked off, and now no one knows what to do, and so they just get beat and routed. And because his priorities are, like, and, like, Diethard is like, why is he leaving now at, like, the most important moment? And, like, if he's, like, actually, if his priority was the cause, like, winning the battle, then, like, he would have, stayed. But because, like, Nunnally is the most important thing, and, like, like he says, all of this is specifically to create a world for Nunnally, and, like, obviously we like Nunnally, and obviously we sympathize with his goal, but because he prioritizes his sister over, like, everyone else, including, like, the collective, he basically, like, steps back from actually getting the necessary step to achieve his goal, basically, unknowingly.
Right.
Because of his tunnel vision. And also, he does have the thing where he's like, well, if something happens to Nunnally, then I did all this for nothing. Which is, like, not the... if Nunnally dying, which, hard to know what happened, because, like, we get the shot, and then we get a shot of Nunnally briefly in the ending. But, like, it sort of like implies like, oh yeah, if she died, would he just like throw up his hands and like give up?
No, I feel like he's the type of guy who would just do it out of revenge then, you know?
Yeah, yeah. But like obviously I think like the more correct revolutionary policy would be like, even if I can save Nunnally, I have to like keep fighting to create a world so that people like her.
Yeah.
Will still be able to like, even if Nunnally herself, but like at least people like her will live in a better world. And even if I don't see the like, you know, even if I don't see the better future, then at least, you know, I'd be like one stepping stone is like the thing. But like again, like Lelouch is like very, you know, as Toto says, like a Britannian, because you know he is the prince. He's still falling into the same traps culturally. He's like, I have to fight my family and defeat my system for my sister, out of my revenge and my grievances, personal ones, because like he's doing like geopolitical things, but for very personal reasons, and not for like mass politics reasons. Which I think like leads to like I think the brief but perhaps to be explored next season conflict that arises when like Callan is there and sees like Lelouch unmasked as Zero.
Yeah.
Where she's like, "Oh, you were just using the Japanese," and like Lelouch is like, "I don't see what the problem is because like, you're gonna get independent through the process anyway," and not realizing that there's a difference in ideals of like priorities and like it is meaningful difference where like means to end leads to incidental Japanese independence versus like that's the actual thing you care about and are fighting for. And like you know you can see that like Lelouch doesn't realize that like oh yeah he's demonstrating why this distinction matters by being in that cave and not actually on the battlefield helping to win the battle in that moment.
Totally.
I think that also like maybe illustrates like there's a lot of anime protagonist reasons why Lelouch was able to get where he was. Like, oh yeah, he's a protagonist, so obviously he's gonna get far. But two, like, oh yeah, he's exiled prince royalty who had personally knew Kirihara and Toto and could like rely on them. More so Kirihara, because I don't think Toto knows he's Lelouch. But anyway, Kirihara vouched for him. And also he just happened to meet C2 and get like brainwash powers that lets him do whatever he wants, even if it means like making people do things they wouldn't do, like, you know, making Jeremiah hand Suzaku over, etc., etc. Or like do things to get like resources for the Black Knights that, you know, they wouldn't have been able to get otherwise. And like these things like Lucia's like charisma definitely help as well, but also like his special privileges and perks go a long way to like helping him get to where he is. And
totally
I think it's good and interesting that the last stretch of the season is showing the limits to what your individual anime superpowers can do when dealing with the real world issues. Where it's the powers are getting out of control, so you can't.
We'll talk about that more in season 2, I think.
Okay, well, that's good. That's good because it's like I like that. Like one again, like as much as it's kind of like it feels like a Deus Ex Machina, it is like his powers going out of control caused like the situation in Yuffie.
Right, yeah.
Which is like, you know, oh, he can't. His like magic wands to make things happen is not really reliable as an asset and now can be turned against him. And two, ultimately he's, you know, there's limits to what he can do. Like, he still has to win the battle, and if he's abandoning the battle to go find his sister, that's a weak point that, like, undermines the entire project, and, like, he can't Geass his way into winning the rest of Tokyo. And also, you know, this comes up in the pizza episode a bit, where, like, he is in the warehouse with C2, and then he sees Callan and Obi and Valletta show up, and then also Suzaku shows up, and he's like, how am I going to get out of this one? I have used my Geass on, like, almost everyone here, so I can't even use it again to get me out of the situation. Like, I think, like, of the people in the room with him, literally only Oki has not gotten the Geass used on him. Maybe Callan as well. But, like, it is like... I think the fact that, like, oh yeah, his power can't get him out of every situation, and once the geopolitics starts, like, really hitting the fan, like, once it's go time, he casts, the material world is coming in and impacting his ability to do things. Even if also the material world includes somehow Jeremiah returned and he has a big ass robot.
Yes. I really like the Lelouch and C2 stuff. Lelouch feels weird about her, but he does ultimately trust her as his partner, and, like, I think their romance is really fun, and it's good stuff.
Yeah. I like the bit where, despite everything, Shirley does trust Lelouch not to hold them
hostage, yeah.
Not to harm them. Yeah, like, he's holding them quote-unquote hostage, but, like, really he's just keeping them safe. Yeah. He's just, like, the Black Knights think they're hostage. And crucially, I do like the bit where, like, because... Well, even though Suzaku maybe has a hunch at this point that Lelouch is zero, Lelouch does use the doubt to, like, pretend to hold Suzaku hostage to trap him.
Yeah.
Even though he's, like, actually going to hurt them, because, like, obviously he's not going to blow up anomaly. But it's a fun bit. I also like how episode 24 is basically, like, both C2 and Toto being like to Lelouch, maybe don't be overconfident just because you have a superpowered robot, and that's actually
yes,
good advice, because he does get kind of owned immediately by Cornelia, and then keeps taking L's through the rest of the two-parter. Like, it is a fun bit that, like, despite having, like, the super powerful Gundam robot, Cornelia is just so much better at fighting than Lelouch is, that she's only beaten because Lelouch did set up a Chekhov's gun Manchurian candidate in Andreas back in the massacre episode, the stadium.
Yes.
I
do quite. I know we've talked about it before. I do quite like how Lelouch is not, like, a particularly good robot pilot.
Yeah. Like, in some ways, him getting the protagonist robot suit only really works in the sense of, like, oh, he's teaming up with Suzaku at that one moment, but then it's kind of, like, not that impressive otherwise. Like, it has awe power, but, like, he's not, like, a good pilot. I do like that we had, like, the seeds of Andreas, like, oh, where is he? Like, literally, like, Guilford and Cornelia's like, where the fuck is he? Like, he's been missing. What the fuck is up with that? And we get, like, a little glimpse of it, and the payoff here is pretty good. And then he gets blasted by Lelouch, which is like, oh man, sucks to be you. Especially because he was, like, the least racist one of Cornelia's team, and, like, the most supportive of Suzaku and Yuffie, in a way. Which is a fun wrinkle in all this. And then we get, like, the start of episode 25, where, like, he reveals himself to Cornelia, who, again, as previously stated, does actually like Lelouch, but, things are complicated now. But more crazy is, like, oh yeah, she's, like, we get the reveal that she was apparently supposed to guard Marianne at the time of her assassination, but, like, her guarding was simply cancelled by Marianne, and also Schneisel was the one who transported the body of Marianne or something, and, like, what's up with that? So that we're setting up Schneisel
I know
as, like,
the answers to these things, so I can't talk about them.
Yes, I know. They're obviously setting up, like, Schneisel as, like, as a major antagonist, which is like, one, he shows up and not Clovis and the OP, and two, there was a bit way early on where Charles, in his, like, weird ethereal fucking pantheon palace thing, was like, oh, Schneisel's moving against me. Well, we'll let him do what he wants. Oh, I'm evil. So I know. Stuff being set up for next season. Obviously, they don't have enough time for it this season. There's obviously the big fuck-off annoying fight with Jeremiah where, he has to get away, drop in a building on him. The battle rages. Once again, there's an anime show, so we get Seal tits out. But anyway, she's suiting up, and she gets in the robot, which is cool. I don't know what the name of this robot is, but it's cool that she gets... After basically being, like, the support person to Suzaku, I'm glad that she is not just support woman, that she is, like, a capable mecha pilot in her own right, and I hope that she gets more stuff to do next season in the robot. Because cool.
Yeah.
There's also the bit where, like, the student council's caught, and surely because she knows Zero's Lelouch, she's like, no, I don't think Lelouch would want you to shoot us. And Tamaki's like, nah, I know Zero, and I will shoot him on his behalf. Tamaki being an asshole as usual. But there's definitely a dramatic irony tension there. Just because what people know what is complicating everything. Also, we get the good bit where even the Arthur the cat who keeps biting Suzaku eventually saves Suzaku.
Yes, I thought that was very funny.
It's a very, very good payoff. Of course, we get Suzaku called Cornelia on the roof, and despite her racism, I do like Cornelia finally at this point being like, well, you are the most loyal person to my sister, and you know what? We all know how I feel about my sister. So she does just informally but officially knight him as oh, well, now you are
yeah,
an actual technically nobility even of the Britannian Empire, which is interesting, little wrinkle. That oh yeah, not interesting character development. Just oh yeah, finally now that it's come to this, she's well, now you're the person I trust most in a weird way, despite really not trusting him before. Which is fun. We'll be interesting to see how that maybe pays out in the next season as well. Also, of course, because of Geass being the way it is, she doesn't remember that Lelouch is Zero. But she's yeah, he's on his island. I don't remember that much. And then Ogi's like, Callan, I have woken up specifically to tell you to go follow Suzaku over there. Which is why she's going. And there's also when Lelouch is don't call me anymore. Bye. Take care of this. Which is again, we talk about, this is very bad. Lelouch shouldn't have done this. This is bad for everyone. Bad revolutionary leadership tactics. And basically just does a decapitation strike on the battle self-imposed, every medieval antiquity battle where oh yeah, they kill the king and then the morale collapses and the slaughter happens basically.
Yeah.
And Lelouch basically does that himself by removing him from the board. And so yeah, Callan and Suzaku head over to the island. And then we get Nina comes out with a robot, and then we get the ceasefire because the robot has a nuke attached to it, I guess. And this is not followed up on in the rest of the episode.
It's so big brained that they were what if there was a racist lesbian monarchist who invented nukes out of dead gay yearning?
Yeah. And it's also a thing that she was just doing in secret, just as a high school student, just in a side hobby. Yeah, I'm inventing nuclear weapons, And Loi just climbs in through the window. Is like, oh, I see you invented nuclear weapons. That's pretty impressive. Yeah. So this is not followed up on at all, but it is like part of the whole set. Yeah, and again we talked about like the bit of like how Lelouch thinking, oh, if without Nunley, then this is all be pointless. Undermines his own political objectives. And then we get like they go to the island and they get brain blasted again, and then Lelouch promises, "I'll always be with you," and then Jeremiah shows up again, and then C2 kisses him, and it's like, "Don't worry, I'll definitely be back. I'm not going into the Marianas Trench." And she goes to that. And then we get the final confrontation, which I guess we kind of touched on already, but like I know.
Yeah, it's it's good stuff.
Like
I'll take care of not only you can just fucking die.
Yeah. And like on one hand, I think we've spent a lot of the pod talk about like why Suzaku has been generally wrong ideologically. Yep. But I think this is like to some degree progress on his part where he's like, well, no, sometimes you do just gotta kill the person who is evil. Even if in this case it's like complicated by the fact that he is on the side of the cops. Which would mean, it's bad when the cops think they have to kill people for justice. Seigi no Mikata.
Yeah.
But also in this case, it is also extra complicated by like Lelouch through his Geass got Yuffie to do the ethnic cleansing massacre. And so in that sense, Suzaku is pretty justified, and Lelouch noticeably doesn't argue against that out of his own guilt, and also like disagrees with with something that horrible and awful and evil like that. It's like it's like a crime against humanity, war crime, etc. That on a mass scale, you can't just. It's not like the argument of like, well, actually my powers accidentally went off. Oopsie. You can't really, you can't do that. Yeah. And also, it's not like Lelouch was in my headspace to do that. He's and also, it's not like that's a compelling argument either way. Because still, like, well, your powers still have the power to do this, and you can't even control it. Like, for all these various reasons, Suzaku is, I think, not unreasonably like, okay, you do, even if you were my friend at some point, you're like too dangerous to allow to live, regardless of what your actual morality is. And of course, like,
yeah,
a lot of this is also filtered in through his like grief over Yuffie, which is like, also complicated things, but like, it's still like Suzaku is for all that I've dunked on him and his beliefs in the past season, this is the most him being very reasonable for once.
Yeah.
And just the confrontation on his face of just, and again, like he said, like he's like, no, I think I'm just gonna take care of Nunnally and you can just die. Actually, is very good.
It's very good. Can you fucking imagine having to wait like 6 months or a year or however long after this episode?
Yeah,
I go crazy.
Let me tell you. I think I messaged you like I wish I didn't watch this. I didn't finish watching the show like 2 days before we were supposed to record because I want to watch R2 immediately, and of course we pushed back the recording.
Yeah.
But also, there was probably also value in like me just sitting on it and like thinking about it a bit because I might have not had as developed thoughts as I do if I we did it right away.
Totally.
But yeah, it's it's like lots of interesting things to chew about, both from a character point and also like the political point. Political point is obviously messy by like show made under post 9/11 liberal hegemony while also having to contend with the magical melodrama stuff, which makes it harder to have a clean political show in the same way, but also like lots of interesting things to get out of it, and I'm willing to like get the argument of like, oh yeah, the show is like probably is smarter about things than people are willing to give it credit for, or at least they put more effort into these things than people give credit for.
Yes, I think that's how I'm feeling at the moment.
Yeah, and like in some ways, there are things I might not appreciate as much because I am on a first watch, and so I can't say like what are things being seeded that I can only see in hindsight.
Right.
Like, what are things that I'm like, oh, if I watch episode 1 again, I see the show. Knowing the show in its totality, I'd be like, oh, I see how this leads to this. The things that are like well plotted out.
Totally.
And so yeah, crazy cliffhanger. And also like hard to know. Like again, because I have now seen the table scene and the stadium scene, I now have zero context for anything in R2 other than the actual end of the show. And so anything could happen that I just have no idea about.
Yeah, you'll see.
It's truly a. I have no idea what could possibly happen. So I'm curious to see where that goes. Yeah, and like I know we said this in episode 1, but like I know people have. I think like the general consensus is that R2 is like worse or a letdown, and I know you've not shared that opinion, so I'm hoping I also feel that way. But yeah.
Yes.
We'll take
the thing that is undeniable about R2 is that anime watching in Japan is generally very determined by time slot. Like, a lot of people will just watch the show because it's on during a certain time. R2's time slot changed. From like late night, like post midnight otaku to like kind of like an evening show, and I think this did force them to make some early season rewrites to ease new audience members in. But I think by the end, I don't think R2 is particularly worse than the original. I think the stuff in our first episode is going to be a little rough, but it gets better.
Okay. Yeah, because I'm curious to know why people think that way. Because like Brad has also mentioned that he doesn't like R2, for instance. But,
yeah, we'll talk about it. We'll talk about it.
I also again, I haven't looked up because you said don't look up production stuff for R2 until after R2's done. But I've heard, like, I think just from osmosis, I have kind of heard that like there wasn't necessarily a plan to do an R2, and that there may have been some like changes to how season 1 ended based on the fact that they suddenly got like a second season. And
I will try to investigate into that and see the truth. But the time slot thing I know is true for sure.
Yeah, which if I recall correctly is almost like an inverse of what happened in season 1, where like it was originally going to have a prime time slot and then got moved to the late night one, and so they felt more confident to, or either more confident or more pressure to do like take the show in a more, I guess like, I don't want to say dark direction, but like they could do more than they might have. They got away with more than they would have on a primetime slot.
Right, like there's no way you get the like Nina masturbates with a table scene on like primetime TV.
Yeah, exactly. So yeah, it's interesting. Also, I did see like a bunch of episodes that cast and crew commentary, so I may, when we get to the recap movies, go through those, just because like if that's gonna be the episode where I just do all the trivia, I may as well, because I might get some interesting tidbits.
I think that's pretty smart.
Obviously I'm not gonna do that now because I'm like, for all I know, what probably is going to happen is like they'll just like say stuff. They'll just assume that you have seen the entire show, and so I'm not going to. So, I'm not gonna spoil myself by watching cast commentary necessarily. But, I am keeping that in my back pocket because I think it could be fun.
Totally.
Do you have anything else to say about the finale?
No, I think we've kind of exhausted it pretty well.
Yeah. I think there's also like, I agree. I feel like to some degree I'm talking the most, but also I'm the one who has not seen the show. But I also like,
Yeah.
Also, definitely want to hear your opinions, especially on as someone who's watching for a second time, reprising these things.
Totally.
But yeah, if you don't have any more to add, I guess we can wrap up for now.
Yeah. The plugs? Do we do plugs? Are we still doing those? Okay.
Yeah.
KimmyCatherine.bluesky.social. Mismatchedwings.itch.io is where I make visual novels. Yeah, that's it for me.
Twitter is at ultra_Q. That's QUEWE. On Blue Sky, it's all one word, ultra Q, no underscore. You can send an email to ultraqpod@gmail.com. And next month, we will watch the first 8 episodes of R2.
Yeah. I'll see you all in the depths of Atlantis.
Damn, we got that. We got that outro done real quick. I'll see you in Shell.
モザイクかけら一つ一つつなぎ合わせて描いてゆくあなたがくれた出会いと別れこんなはずじゃないそう思って寝るに目覚めればいつもの変わらないから周り意味もなく繰り返しモザイクかけら拾い集めてたうまく生きるための術いびつなそれが美しく見えたんだ強がりながらつまずきながら選び抜いた道の上で剥がれ落ちては埋まらないかけそれぞれの意地を敷き詰めた世界誰にも譲れないものがあるはずなのに彩りを気にしてるモザイクかけらさまざまな色や形に見せられながら望みすぎてた若気の至りよ心の隙間愛のセメントを信じては流し込んで決して溶け合うことのないかけコントラストが綺麗だから逆に でこぼこっている